This is Leo. He is my 2-year-old cattle dog Aussie mix. I adopted him just under a year ago in September of 2019, and he had very, very little training. He was super aggressive and he would bite people and other dogs pretty frequently when he would get frustrated, so he had a lot to unlearn before he could relearn good behaviors. Leo is now much better, but this video will show you some of the methods I used to train him, including flooding, shaping, desensitization, and reinforcement. So the first thing I'm going to show you is flooding. In Leo's case, I put a collar on him with tags and I just left it on him until he became comfortable with it. In flooding, this is where the animal is forced to remain in a position that makes them uncomfortable. The stimulus that's making them uncomfortable is not removed until the resistance of the animal has appeared to have stopped completely. This can also be known as classic habituation. Unfortunately, with flooding, there are some downsides to it. Sometimes the animal can become overstressed and become sensitized to it, which is where the animal does not habituate to the stimulus and just becomes overly stressed when it's presented with it. The next thing I'm going to talk about is desensitization. Desensitization is when the animal is gradually introduced to a stimulus that they can habituate to it over time. When they are calm, the stimulus is taken away as a way of negatively reinforcing them and telling them that when they can sit still, they will no longer be presented with this stimulus. And we use this because it allows us to habituate animals to a particular stimulus, and it's potentially an unfamiliar or an unnatural one. And with desensitization, there's a lower chance of the animal becoming sensitized to it as they would if we had done flooding. With Leo, I desensitized him to a muzzle. I put the muzzle on his face, and when he's calm, I take it off. We did this repeatedly until he was comfortable with a muzzle on his face. Of course, at this point, he's already used to a muzzle, but sometimes he just likes to be difficult. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is shaping. Shaping is when we use small steps to achieve a bigger goal. I just want to preface with this video. Leo had just had his nails cut prior to this video, and he accidentally got his quick cut. So he was very, very nervous when we took this. But when we use shaping, we award the animal after each small step, and when they become comfortable with it, we move on to the next step. This is really helpful because if an animal is really nervous, like Leo in this case, it is likely too dangerous to start with the end result. Like if I were to just grab Leo's paws here, he would likely bite me. Shaping allows us to desensitize the animal little by little to ensure both our safety and theirs. The animal can gain trust for you, which is really necessary, especially if they're in a vulnerable position. With Leo, I started at his shoulder and I'd scratch his shoulder. If he didn't react, I moved my hand and then I'd start at the shoulder and go down his leg a little bit. If he didn't react, I'd move my hand. And I did that repeatedly until we got to his foot. And when I held onto his foot, I waited for him to stop biting before I let go. In some cases here, it kind of looks like I'm reinforcing the bad behavior and scratching his face or his neck. Ideally, we wouldn't be doing that. I was just doing that because how nervous he was. I also know my dog. I know how training works with him. If he's overwhelmed, we're not going to get anywhere with it. Also, at the end of this video, it looks like we end on a bad note without him being calm. Ideally, too, you wouldn't do that, and we didn't do that. We just stopped recording at this point. But yeah, ideally, you would end with 2 to 3, maybe even 4 of doing the desired behavior and having them stay calm the whole time. In shaping, it's also important to note that you should not move on to the next step until they are completely ready. So with Leo, I was kind of pushing it a little bit for this video. You'll see it doesn't really work out too well with him, but he is also showing a lot of signs of overstress. If you see those signs of overstress, like baring his teeth, you should not push on until they are no longer showing it. Moving on before they're ready can actually make you take steps backwards. In the case of Leo, we cut his nails before. This is something we have to do regularly because he needs his nails cut, but if we cut his nails, in his case, we cut his quick, it has made him go back a few steps where now he has become sensitized to it. Now that he's sensitized to it, he does become overly stressed, and this whole process of shaping will take even longer because he now does not feel safe with this. And the goal of shaping is to show him that he is safe, that our intention isn't to hurt him, but of course sometimes things happen, accidents happen, and it sometimes sets them back. When that happens, you just have to start from the beginning. Never move on before you've started from the beginning, and make sure that they are totally calm with it. And once they're calm, then you may move on to the next step. I also want to point out that in this video, it looks like I'm pulling Leo towards me, but really he's trying to kick me off of him. It looks like I'm pulling his paw back, it's really just me trying to keep with him so that I don't accidentally reinforce him baring his teeth at me or growling at me or getting his paw away. So once we realized that this wasn't going to work with Leo, at least not right now, I still really wanted to show everyone the process, so I used my sister's dog, Yogi. So I'm just doing the same thing with Yogi of starting at his shoulder and moving down to his paw. Yogi is not nearly as reactive as Leo, so he is a much better dog to demonstrate this with, but you can still see that when I grab the clippers, he does get very, very nervous. Now, Yogi did just have his nails cut, so I wasn't going to actually show the nail cutting, but he is much, much better for it, and so I just kind of would hold his paw, wait for him to calm down, and then you could see here as I grab the clippers, you can kind of see a body language change in Yogi. And here I just let him see the clippers, let him know it's safe, and then once he's calm, I let him back down. And there you could kind of see he got scared again, so we're trying it again. I'm staying with him, and then once he's calm, he gets let go again. The next thing I'm going to talk about is reinforcements, specifically negative reinforcements. Negative reinforcements are when we remove an undesired stimulus, like in Leo's case, holding his paw when the desired behavior is shown. In Leo's case, not reacting, not biting. So this is also desensitization, but it's the actual removal of the stimulus. So letting go of his paw, that is the negative reinforcement. I'm showing him here that when he does the behavior that I want him to do, he is not going to have that unwanted stimulus anymore, and that it's okay. When we do this, we want to do all 4 paws. In this video, I think I only showed 2 or 3 of the paws, but ideally you would do all 4 paws. And you hold on, and when they're calm, you want to give an immediate reinforcement to immediately let them know, like, hey, you did a good job, I'm going to take away this annoying stimulus. So it's also important to note that with negative reinforcement, we can give accidental reinforcements. This happens if Leo were to get his paw away from me before he was calm. So by doing that, he just reinforced with himself that if he does this bad behavior, he can get what he wants. Ideally, if that were to happen, you go back to it, stick with it, and make sure that you let go of their paw before they have an opportunity to get it away from you. The next form of reinforcement is positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement is the addition of an attractive stimulus, like scratches or treats, when the desired behavior is shown. We use reinforcements because they are super helpful in allowing us to praise an animal and reward the correct behavior in the hopes that the animal will later associate the reward with the behavior and repeat it. So in this case, whenever Leo gives a command, such as sit or circles, I give him a treat. Timing here is super, super important. We need to be giving the reinforcement within a couple seconds of them doing the behavior, or we may accidentally reinforce the wrong behavior. So in this case, if I were to tell Leo to sit and I waited to throw the ball is a reinforcement, but in that case, it's more of a reward. He may not know what's being reinforced. The best kind of reinforcement is when we use a combination of both positive and negative. This would look like if I were holding Leo's paw and he were calm, I would let go of his paw and immediately give him a treat. Now again, timing with these are really, really important, but combined reinforcement really works because not only are they having that unpleasant stimulus taken away, they're getting a very good stimulus. By taking away the negative and adding a positive, we're really reinforcing that behavior and really encouraging and increasing the likelihood that that behavior will be repeated at a later time. In the last video of Leo getting his nails cut, you can see obvious signs of overstress, including a rigid body posture, teeth baring, and biting. Other signs of overstress in dogs include panting, pacing, growling, cowering, and barking.